Hi again, ladies. Okay, yesterday on Monday the 27th, in our live video conference, we went over the answers to homeworks numbers 12 and 13. And actually, we began homework 14. I went through, I think, the first 2 or 3 questions. I'm going to go through those again. But these are all in preparation for the quiz number 4, which will start tomorrow. And so, if you would, flip over to homework 14. I went over these already, but numbers 1A, who led the Spartan standing army in time of war? Well, there were different ruling families, and during time of war, 2 kings, each from a different ruling family, would lead the armies. 1B, what was the purpose of the 30-member council? Well, they governed Sparta in times of peace. 1C, how were all the members of the council determined? Well, first, there were the 2 kings. They were members of the council, the 2 kings who ruled the standing armies. There were also wealthy citizens over the age of 60, and they were elected for life terms. And then there were 5 ephors, which is EPHORS. They were elected to 1-year terms, and they were the ones who handled the day-to-day business of the civilization. Number 2A, describe the system of Spartan government. Well, we had already discussed one of the vocabulary terms was an oligarchy, and that was when few people from the ruling class make decisions for everyone. And they also, in addition to that, they had a citizen assembly. Now, they voted on new laws, but they were not the ones who could suggest the new laws. The council and ephors were the only ones who could actually suggest the laws, but the citizen assembly voted for the new laws. 2B, why was it admired by other city-states? Why was their government admired? Well, because it was so well ordered. It was organized, and because of that, it was long-lasting. Number 3, describe where the city-state of Athens was located. Well, it was located on Attica, a part of the Balkan Peninsula, northeast of Peloponnesus. 4A, describe how the system of government of Athens differed from Sparta. Well, we just said that Sparta had an oligarchy. Athens, on the other hand, had an aristocracy, which was where a small group of leaders from wealthy landowning families, and they would inherit their right to rule. So it really came down to whether you were wealthy and landowning, and if you were, then you were part of the ruling aristocracy. 4B, what struggles did this system lead to in Athenian society? Well, as you might imagine, when there are families who are making decisions for everyone, often these leaders and families would struggle for control. They all wanted to have more control. For 5A, in 594 BC, how did Solon attempt to make reforms to end those struggles? Well, he divided the Athenian people into classes based on wealth instead of birth. And so before, it was you had to be born into a landowning family. Now, if you could accumulate wealth, number 5B, how were people allowed to change classes? And so if you could gain wealth, then you could gain power. And so that's a change to the aristocracy. 6A, in 508, what 2 changes did Cleisthenes make to the Athenian government? Cleisthenes was one of the leaders at that time. Well, first, he opened the government to all free men 18 years or older, not just the wealthiest. So anyone 18 years or older could be a part of the government. Second, he created a new council of 500 men who were selected by a drawing. The council suggested laws for the assembly, and they decided on government policies. Now, 6B, how did these reforms change personal responsibility for the government? Well, what this meant was that everyone had a chance to serve, but it also kept any one person or any one group from gaining total control, because everyone had some control. 7. Using information from the capsule Democratic Values on page 253, explain the differences between democracy in Athens and in the United States. So first, Athens had what's called a direct democracy, because everyone could participate. Everyone was, in a way, part of ruling Athens. The U.S. has so many people that we use what's called a representative democracy. So large numbers of citizens elect representatives to make the government decisions for them. So these representatives are supposed to work for the good of the people who elected them. And citizens are supposed to vote for representatives who will best serve their needs. Number 8, which 3 groups still did not have a voice in Athenian democracy? Well, they were women, immigrants, and slaves. All 3 of these groups still had no voice in the Athenian government. Number 9, using information from the capsule The Olympic Games on page 254, explain 2 differences between ancient Olympic Games and those of today. Well, in ancient times, it was city-states competing. These days, today, it's countries competing. In those days, in ancient times, the very beginning, it was just a race to see who was the fastest from the different city-states. Today, it grew from that because they added a few more events. Today, there are hundreds of different events and athletes who participate from many different countries. 10a, who did the Greeks of different city-states consider to be a common ancestor? And his name was Hellen, Hellen. So what did they call their country and themselves? They called their country Hellas, Hellas, and so they called themselves, as citizens, Hellenes. Number 11, who were the 4 gods who were mentioned, and what were their areas of responsibility? So in Greek times, they believed in multiple gods. There was Zeus, who ruled the gods. There was Aphrodite, who was the goddess of love and beauty. There was Athena, who was the goddess of wisdom and warfare. And Hermes, the messenger of the gods. Now, there were many other gods, but these were the 4 major gods, and these are the ones that were mentioned in the textbook. 12a, in the 700s BC, upon whose writing system did the Greeks base theirs? Now, this name should sound familiar because it was the Phoenicians. And 12b, where did the word alphabet come from? Well, in the Greek alphabet, their first 2 letters were alpha and beta, which is where we get our word alphabet. And number 13, explain the differences between the Greek definition of a barbarian and today's meaning. Well, the Greeks thought very highly of themselves. They felt that if you did not know how to speak Greek, then you were a barbarian. Today, the term barbarian is usually referred to when someone is considered uncivilized or rough-mannered. And that is all the answers to homework number 14. So between 12, 13, and 14, you have all the answers ready for quiz number 4 that starts tomorrow. Today you have 1 journal entry and 1, no other assignments other than just to make sure you have all the right answers for the quiz that starts tomorrow. Other than that, have a good day, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.